Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I have been waiting for this for a very long time. Welcome to New York City. It has been a long time coming. We've been talking about this event, and it's one of my favorite places in the entire world. It's a million stories all in one. It's a million stories every single time you visit. And it's in a bit of a transition. So we're going to walk you through it with our friends from New York and Company. And I have something a little bit different happening today. So in just a second, you're going to see what is happening. I am joined by a co-host today, and it's a kind of a special co-host. He's a futurist, global keynote speaker, author, and very importantly, a lifelong New Yorker. So I thought it was important to bring him on to share some, insider perspective outside of the protocols and all of the expansion on the presentations of the boroughs, which you're really going to love. So welcome, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby. It's great to be here. I saw my apartment in that video.
I'm sure you did. I think we watch movies and you always see your apartment. That's the wonderful thing I think about you. You live in a very tall building. But New York is a phenomenal place. You've grown up in different areas of New York, and I can't wait to dive into that with you. And we've got some special friends from New York and Company here. We've got Trudy Singh, who you'll see in a moment, who handles meetings and conventions. And she's an excellent point of contact for anybody that is looking at booking an event. Hi, Trudy. Wave hello and say hi. It's great to see you. And we also have Reginald Charlo, who handles tourism development. And he's based also in New York City. And since it is live TV, we did have John Marshall, and we're working on getting him back. He also handles tourism development for New York City, and he's a lovely guy. So hopefully we'll be meeting him a little bit later in the broadcast. So for now, I want to kick off with understanding that New York is in a bit of a transition. We've got the COVID that we're dealing with, Peter. So
we do have the COVID,
yes. Yes, we do. About the resiliency and the grit of New York City. You've seen a lot of changes. So walk us through a little bit about how you see it through your eyes and what you see for the future.
So I was born here. I was born on 95th Street and Columbus Avenue, and grew up in Manhattan and in Staten Island. I don't normally tell people that. And one of the things that I've seen, we've been here before. Back in the 70s, late 70s, New York was having some serious financial problems. And, about 15 seconds from bankruptcy, the entire city was. And to the point that Billy Joel actually wrote a song about it called I've Seen the Lights Go Out on Broadway. But we came back from that. We had a phenomenal 80s. The 90s brought the Disneyfication of Times Square and Sex and the City, and thousands of people moving to New York wanting to experience that. New York is a cyclical place. And when it's great, it's great. And when it's bad, we know it'll get great again. And even when it's bad, it's not really that bad. New York is a quintessential pizza, right? Even when pizza's bad, it's still pretty good. And New York is pretty much like that. I walked outside this morning. I walked my daughter to school. She's 7 years old. And, as we were walking down the street, it hadn't started raining yet. And, there's architecture here. There's buildings. There's a 100-year-old building next to a brand new condo that just built. You're not going to find anything like it anywhere else in the world. And the energy is still here. Even where there are less people in the streets. I'm looking out over 9th Avenue right now, and it's definitely less crowded. But there are still people in the streets. People are still talking to each other. And there's still an energy and electricity here that has not gone away. And I don't think it ever will. New York is still very much alive, and we are unbelievably smart in how we've been handling coronavirus. You walk outside, and other than seeing people in masks, things are still going on. Outdoor dining has been extended for the entire year. If you are a heat lamp supplier right now, you are in the chips. Let me tell you that. But it is pretty amazing to look outside and see what's still going on here.
I love it. And I've been fortunate to kind of go back and forth as well and be back in the city since March, since all of this happened. And I've been seeing the changes maybe, once a week, where I don't see it every single day. And it's been really inspiring. So I'm thrilled. So what we're going to do today is take you through all of the boroughs. And hopefully John will be back to walk you through the Bronx. But we're going to go right ahead to Brooklyn, which has seen its own renaissance, its own micro renaissance in years past. And it's become quite a hip place to be. And I want to turn over to Reginald to show you his backyard, because he does live there, and share some secrets about Brooklyn for you.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Gabby. I'm thrilled to be here with you and Peter. I'm even more thrilled to show you the quick video on Brooklyn, which is where I live. And this is a teaser just to kind of get you excited and inspired to come back to Brooklyn. All right, there we go. Nice little teaser. So now Brooklyn has over 2.5 million people, the most populous borough in New York City. And with over 70 neighborhoods, you have a chance to go and experience different things every single day. Now, if you are a super basketball fan, there's of course the Brooklyn Nets that play at the Barclays Center located downtown Brooklyn. Also, you'll be able to enjoy a fantastic view of Lower Manhattan from the Brooklyn Heights Promenade. Now, Brooklyn is, as Gabby says, emerging, and a lot of people that came from Brooklyn, a lot of celebrities such as Jay-Z, the late artist Jean-Michel Basquiat, the actress and singer Barbra Streisand, and my next door neighbor is Norah Jones. So there are a multitude of neighborhoods in Brooklyn, as I mentioned before, over 70. And this gives you a chance to experience what makes each neighborhood so unique. So the Flatbush neighborhood, or as we call it, Little Caribbean, you get a sample of the restaurants, the bakeries, and the fresh markets from the region. In the next clip, Caribbean, which is a cultural hub that presents all things Caribbean. Take a look.
My name is Shelley Worrell, and I'm the founder of Little Caribbean NYC. It's a neighborhood in central Brooklyn, home to a huge concentration of Caribbean culture, whether it's food, small business, and just people. And I started to ask, why is there not a Little Caribbean? I think our community has been hard hit. At one point, my zip code, it had one of the highest rates of COVID-19. And then it occurred to me that that meant that the Caribbean community were being disproportionately affected. But on the flip side, I personally have been able to be involved in some really great efforts to support the community. The City of New York reached out for us to distribute 40,000 masks to small businesses. So we were able to get that done within a week so that they could be safe and keep our communities safe. So it's been really wonderful just to see how the community has corralled together to support each other.
Well, let's go by and visit a few other neighborhoods. We have here Williamsburg. So as most of you know, or may not know, Williamsburg has become the hub for hipsters. Hipsters that are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Take your pick. Williamsburg has it all. Williamsburg has a thriving food scene and art scene. The next neighborhood we're going to talk about quickly is Crown Heights and Prospect Park, which Crown Heights and Prospect Park are adjacent to the Flatbush neighborhood we just saw the video of. So the Brooklyn Botanical Garden is a 52-acre botanical garden, and it reopened just this past August 6th. Now, this particular garden is full of natural beauty. The garden itself has more than 18,000 kinds of plants from all over the world. Then, of course, after visiting the garden and taking a nice stroll across the street, you could pop over to Prospect Park and use one of the many, many, many nature trails in Prospect Park. Also, Prospect Park was designed by the same architects as Central Park. Now, after making a full day with your children or yourselves or your wife, your spouse, your husband, whomever you're walking around with, you can go visit the Prospect Park Zoo. Now, for more information about tickets for the Botanical Garden and the zoo, please go to their websites. The next neighborhood we're going to take a look at is the neighborhood of Dumbo. And no, Dumbo does not stand for the elephant. It actually stands for Down Under the Manhattan Bridge Overpass. So it's a little neighborhood between the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge. So this neighborhood really is about 16 blocks big. and most of the streets are cobblestone streets. And from there, you can meander your way through and make your way to Brooklyn Bridge Park. And the wonderful thing about Brooklyn Bridge Park, it gives you fantastic views of Lower Manhattan. And actually, Brooklyn Bridge Park is just below the Brooklyn Heights Promenade. And when you're in Brooklyn Bridge Park, you can go play basketball, you can play bocce ball, you can play racquetball outdoors. There's also an area for you to go kayaking. There's also a wonderful carousel called Jane's Carousel that sits out on Brooklyn Bridge Park. Then, of course, as you can see here, delicious, delicious pizza. You have your choice of Grimaldi's thin crust pizza, or you can go to the Time Out Market, or you can go to Shake Shack, or you can go to a number of other restaurants that are located in Dumbo. As we move on, you'll see that after a long day of walking around Dumbo, you can actually go and either have a cocktail on top of One Hotel Brooklyn Bridge, or you can actually stay at One Hotel Brooklyn Bridge. And this is an actual waterfront retreat because it actually gives you great unobstructed views of Lower Manhattan and the Statue of Liberty. And if you want to be close a little bit further out, you can go to and stay at the New York Marriott at Brooklyn Bridge, which literally is only by walking, only 5 to 7 minutes away from the Dumbo neighborhood. After eating all that pizza, you're going to need to walk and go on bike tours. But of course, you could also go walking and bike tours because you'll be eating a lot when you're in Brooklyn. So some of Brooklyn's best-known tours, or New York City's best-known tours, take place in Brooklyn, such as Fit Tours NYC. They offer private excursions. They include a Brooklyn Bridge fun run, which takes you from the Brooklyn Bridge to Brooklyn Bridge Park. Or you can do Brooklyn Bike Tours. And those tours run, and they feature, as I said before, pizza parlors, dessert spots, and historic brownstones. So once again, after eating all of that, you're going to want to do a little bit of exercise to get you moving. And then you have your choice of spending the night at the NU Hotel or the New Hotel Brooklyn, which is in downtown Brooklyn, which is one of the original boutique hotels in Brooklyn.
I think a lot of people forget that you actually can stay in other places outside of Manhattan. And there's been kind of a resurgence of new hotels or old hotels that have been converted in Brooklyn. And they can also present a really good value for the client. And speaking of transportation, there's always, we'll dive into that. But I think what people don't understand is that everything is so accessible and at your fingertips. Talk to us a little bit about that. What public transportation and how easy it is to get between the boroughs.
Getting around New York City is very, very easy. Specifically, if you're talking about Brooklyn in particular, if you're in downtown Brooklyn, there are 12 subway lines that take you into Manhattan. So you have multiple choices in regards to how you want to get around, move around back and forth. There are a number of subway lines if you're in Williamsburg or whatever neighborhood that you're in that takes you into Manhattan by the subway. Also, there's the yellow taxi cabs. There are green taxi cabs, Uber, Lyft. All those can get you around the city very easily. And, you don't need a quote-unquote passport to get to the boroughs. You just need your either your MTA card or your credit card to get you back and forth from point A to point B. And you're right. And there are a number of hotels in Brooklyn now that give you great views. There's the William Vale Hotel, which is located in Williamsburg. There's also the Williamsburg Hotel. You have the NU Hotel, as I mentioned before. You have the One Hotel Brooklyn Bridge. You have the Marriott. There are a number of hotels that are in Brooklyn now, and giving people the option because everyone now wants to feel like a local. And what better way to feel like a local than to be in that particular neighborhood and stay in that neighborhood and kind of mix and mingle with the locals.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. That was fantastic. And I certainly learned a little bit more about Brooklyn. And speaking of transportation, I'll turn it back to Peter because he actually is one of the only people that I know, or probably one of the only people in the world, that has gone from Brooklyn to Manhattan by swimming. Is that correct?
It's very true. New York City Swim holds a Brooklyn to Manhattan swim every year. They also hold one around the Statue of Liberty. And for the really courageous, they hold one around the island of Manhattan, which I have no intention of ever doing. But, it's funny about transportation in New York. I grew up taking the subway. That's just what I did. And I grew up walking everywhere. If it's less than, it's 20 blocks to a mile. So if it's less than 20 blocks or less than 30 blocks, you walk it. And that's what we do.
Gotcha. Well, I want to know actually your opinion. If you only have a short amount of time, because I think you're used to short trips, so am I. What is the best way to get the best out of New York City? Because I think, we all fall into the default. There's no wrong way to explore a city. Absolutely none. And of course, you want to see the highlights and all of the things that tick the boxes. But as a local, if somebody was coming and they just had a few days, in your eyes, what would you say they should do and absolutely not miss?
So the secret I'm going to give to you, everyone wants to see the Statue of Liberty. Take the Staten Island ferry. It'll take you over to Staten Island and just sit on the boat. It'll take you right back when you're done. It's a half an hour each way. It's a wonderful way to see, not only stay by the back and see Manhattan as you leave and the iconic buildings that are there. I mean, that was a staple when I was growing up, because every day living in Staten Island and going to high school in Manhattan, I'd have to take the ferry back and forth every day. But on the flip side, you also want to go take the A train up to 175th Street. And very few people know about this. You can actually walk across the George Washington Bridge. So take the A train to 175th Street and you walk 2 blocks to the GW Bridge and you walk over. And on a clear day, you can see all the way down to Staten Island. You can see the Statue of Liberty. You can see the entire city of Manhattan from the bridge. And you'll be staring actually at the same view that Captain Sullenberger saw as he was putting down his plane into the Hudson. So it is an amazing icon. The bridge is a stunning work of architecture. If you look straight down to the bottom of it, you can see the Little Red Lighthouse, which anyone has kids, is a phenomenal children's book called, in fact, The Little Red Lighthouse and the Great Gray Bridge. And it was based on the very George Washington Bridge and the Little Red Lighthouse that was built right below it. So those two things just by themselves are a phenomenal way to spend a morning. And then, of course, you can go to Central Park, and if you're feeling adventurous, walk the 6-mile loop around the entire park. There are countless bits of trivia about Central Park, but one of the things you should know is that Cleopatra's Needle lives there. It is a statue. It is not a needle, as I thought it was when I was in school and lost credit on a social studies test for that. It is in fact a giant obelisk, and there is another one somewhere else in the world, I believe in Paris. So it's one of the 2 places in the world. So those 3 things: Central Park, the George Washington Bridge, and then the Staten Island Ferry is just a phenomenal way to get a great overview of Manhattan.
I love that. That's exactly what we need, because I think, there's far too many guidebooks, but to have that, from an insider who knows it all and has been back and forth, forwards and backwards on foot and in water to explore New York, that was really valuable.
One last recommendation I'd give is to watch your favorite movies about New York, because chances are that where they were shot is very easy to find. I didn't realize that outside a restaurant that I go to every day is the actual building that was the location shot for the TV show Friends. And so when you look up at that building, that's the entrance, right? You can virtually every movie that took place in Manhattan, you can find and walk and compare, and it's pretty cool.
It's so true. And as Reginald was talking, he was throwing out these names that we all recognize. If you've listened to any rap songs and whichever, Flatbush, that, you recognize it. You don't know where it is, but you can relate to it in your head. All right. So we are fortunate I think we have John back, but I think we're going to transition over to Trudy. And we are going to start to go through some information on Manhattan, because most people identify New York City with Manhattan first. But she's got some great information about this particular area, and then she's going to move on to Queens.
Thanks so much, Gabby. Why don't we just go all in and rediscover Manhattan with the video? Thanks. Okay, Manhattan may be the city's smallest borough size-wise, but Manhattan is home to over 1.6 million residents. Many of our famous residents, as we were talking about earlier, like singer-songwriter Alicia Keys, or maybe Lady Gaga. Maybe when you were strolling down the street, you bumped into Robert Downey Jr. in Manhattan. So lots of famous names live in and work in the Manhattan area. This borough also contains iconic attractions at every turn. Central Park, Grand Central Terminal, the Empire State Building, Wall Street, Times Square, MoMA, the Met, Rockefeller Center. These are all names of places you may be familiar with. Manhattan, as we talked about earlier, also serves as a popular spot for television and movie production locations. It's featured in classics like Breakfast at Tiffany's, and as Peter was saying, Seinfeld and Friends. But new television shows and movies are always in the works in Manhattan. When people think of New York City, they often envision Manhattan because they've seen it in TV or movies productions. But there's more to this borough than big name attractions, renowned museums, restaurants, and the bright lights of Broadway. Manhattan also includes charming blocks, funky shops, and hidden green spaces. Now let's take a moment to hear from one of our long-standing Manhattan businesses.
My name is Muhammad Ahmed. I'm on the Casa magazine since 1994.
My name is Happy and I run the Instagram account for Casa Magazines. And every time you come here, there's somebody beside you who's so interesting, somebody who actually works in the magazine. Like the photographers, the writers, this is their local newsstand.
Now, after this COVID, business is very bad. It's very hard to survive nowadays.
I decided to post about La Bonbonnier's GoFundMe, and that just like blew up the fundraising for them overnight. So because of their GoFundMe, we created our GoFundMe, and the synergy really helped the both of them. We built this community of like 15,000, and we just have to keep helping. So we started posting about everybody else's fundraising efforts. Everybody comes together and helps each other out. That's the spirit of New York.
As you can see from that video, businesses across the 5 boroughs are working together towards a common goal: to welcome back guests, employees, and the community at large, while ensuring that everyone's health and safety is at the forefront. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Hudson Yards. Hudson Yards is on the far west side of Manhattan. Visitors and locals are enjoying New York's newest neighborhood. Hudson Yards is the largest private real estate development in the history of the United States. Highlights of this project include the Vessel, a massive permanent public art centerpiece by acclaimed British artist Thomas Heatherwick. The Vessel features 154 interconnecting flights of stairs with more than 2,500 individual steps. Visitors and locals alike are taking to the steps to check out the new views. Now, I won't be going up because that's too much of a workout for me. But if you're looking for a different perspective, stroll over to the Edge observation deck. On the 100th floor of 30 Hudson Yards, the Edge is the highest outdoor observation deck in the Western Hemisphere, and it's the 5th highest in the world. This is also a great place for a reception for your meeting or convention. Enjoy unobstructed views that look out over the Manhattan skyline and Hudson River. The sunsets from this location can't be beat. It's definitely an only in New York experience. Additionally, in the Hudson Yards, in addition to our iconic venues, we also have great places to eat. There are 16 different distinct dining experiences curated by the celebrity chef Thomas Keller of Per Se and Bouchon. And we also have a great food hall by Jose Andres. So go ahead and eat, and then you can walk it off while you see the sights. One of the sites that I want to bring up is just steps from Hudson Yards is the Javits Center. Javits Center is the city's primary venue for large conventions, trade shows, and special events. Javits is in the final phases of their expansion, adding 1.2 million square feet of exhibition and related space for a total of 3.3 million square feet of space. This will result in 5 times as much meeting rooms and ballroom space and create the largest ballroom in the Northeast at 55,000 square feet. Javits expansion will feature meeting rooms with amazing views, the largest rooftop farm in Manhattan, and a rooftop pavilion for indoor-outdoor events that can host more than 1,000 people. Within walking distance of the Javits, there are over 26,000 hotel rooms. With an inventory like this, New York City can accommodate groups well over 9,000 rooms peak for your meeting or convention, with a product and style for every budget and every taste. One notable hotel in the Hudson Yards neighborhood, which is steps from the Javits, the Edge, and the Vessel, is the Equinox Hudson Yards. This luxury lifestyle hotel with 212 guest rooms and 48 suites offers a resort experience in the heart of the city, perfect for convention VIPs or just an urban oasis getaway. Now we're going to move over to Central Park and the surrounding area. Central Park, as Peter was talking about, is a must-see for anyone visiting New York City, no matter what the time of year. The 843-acre destination is Manhattan's most famous park. And one of the new highlights in the park is the recently unveiled Women's Rights Pioneers Monument, featuring Sojourner Truth, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Susan B. Anthony. The statue celebrates the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, and it also celebrates women winning the right to vote. Very, very important times. As we move south towards the High Line, formerly an abandoned railway, the High Line has been repurposed into the city's most unusual, inventive, and popular green space. This elevated West Side Park offers free time tickets, and for social distancing, the number of visitors is limited. Tickets should be reserved in advance. The High Line is 1.5 mile long linear park. It includes greenways and trails and was created at the former site of the New York Central Railroad spur. The abandoned spur has been redesigned as a living system and now stands as an icon of contemporary landscape architecture. At the southernmost tip of the High Line, visit the reopened Whitney Museum of Art in the Meatpacking District. The Whitney is the world's leading museum of 20th century and contemporary art in the United States. Another New York City landmark, you may have heard about it. It's the Empire State Building. The Empire State Building is one of the most famous skyscrapers. You can visit the 86th or 102nd floor observatories and have a great vantage point to look out over the city. The observatory is currently open from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. with advanced ticketing times to ensure social distancing. And then just minutes from the Empire State Building will take you to Herald Square. Many of you may be familiar with Macy's Herald Square for their 4th of July fireworks display, or maybe the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Macy's Herald Square is the flagship store and the world's largest department store. It can seem like a universe all its own. With over 1 million square feet of retail space on 10 floors, Macy's Herald Square offers practically everything you could ever want. Now we're going to move down to Lower Manhattan, which is perhaps most famous for Wall Street, but this neighborhood is about much more than finance. When you weave your way downtown, be sure to check out the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. The Memorial and Museum is a moving tribute to those that we lost in the World Trade Center attack. The memorial's twin pools offer graceful, contemplative spaces for reflection. Add a small tour from Experience First NYC to get an in-depth look at the 9/11 Memorial and Wall Street. It's an experience you won't forget. Lower Manhattan also has a vibrant restaurant scene. Restaurants in all 5 boroughs are open for outdoor seating, and on September 30th, dining resumed at 25% capacity. So have lunch or dinner at one of downtown's culinary landmarks, like the Tribeca Grill. The restaurant is known for its Italian-inspired cuisine and its extensive wine list. Grab a quick bite? You want to grab a quick bite? Why not try out a food truck in Lower Manhattan? Food trucks where you can get anything from Korean tacos to ghee fries or even a Belgian waffle. Okay, so you need more shopping in your life. Okay, why not head over to Brookfield Place in downtown, the epicenter of luxury shopping and dining. While there, check out Ashley Longhorn's A New Beginning. It's a series of installations on display in the glass entrances of Brookfield Place. There is so much more that I could tell you about Manhattan, but I'm going to hold off and leave that for your next itinerary when you travel to New York City. All right, Gabby, sending it back to you.
All right, thanks so much. And I think, aside from what everybody knows as the mainstays in Manhattan, I think a lot of what happens and a lot of the magic that occurs is in the small businesses, and you referenced that before. And I think, and I'll turn to Peter on this really quickly also for his point of view. But I think the way that New York is going to recover, or one of the main ways New York is going to recover, is if we patronize small businesses and if we support the small restaurants and the independent shops and the mom and pops. It's really easy to walk into a Target and pick up anything that you want, but there are so many businesses that have either had to temporarily shut their doors, or halt operations. So talk to us a little bit about that and some of maybe your finds and your little hidden gems that you like to patronize that you feel better about supporting.
No question about it. I mean, the one of the jokes is that when you tell someone in New York, okay, I'll meet you on the corner at the Starbucks across from the Chase, right opposite the CVS, you could be talking about 34 different corners in a 1 mile radius. So the local businesses that are in New York, the small businesses that have started here and weathered the storms over and over again are really, really special. In fact, I'm pretty sure I cooked you a steak as a thank you present once. I cooked you a dinner. That steak came from Esposito's Meat Market, 4 blocks away on 9th Avenue and 38th Street. They've been there since the 40s. And I'm pretty sure it was the best steak you ever had in your life. And it was only partially due to how good of a cook I am. So there are hidden gems all around the city. And really, when I say all around the city, I mean all around the city. Every single neighborhood has small independent stores that right now might be struggling, but have finds that you're never going to see anywhere else in the world. It is truly, truly an amazing opportunity to get gifts. Don't limit yourself to I went to New York and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. The finds that you can find in these small local stores, whether it's on Bleecker Street or 110th Street and Broadway, are truly spectacular. So give yourself some time to really explore the city and just look for those little stores that are sort of over the edge when it comes to amazing things.
Yeah, and just a question on, I guess, adaptation, because I saw a photo of one of your favorite places, one of the gyms. So I know that things have had to sort of transform and we've had to adapt to them. So tell us a little bit about life now in New York City, whereas things that you used to do have changed and you're just adapting to what is happening differently.
Well, that's the thing. Things have changed, but in retrospect, a lot of things are still the same. I wake up super early on the half the week. I'll go to Equinox right in Hudson Yards. It's an 8-minute walk. I'll be one of the first people in there at 5:30 in the morning and get a great workout. I'm not attractive enough to go to Equinox in the evening when all the models go there, so I have to go there at 5:30 in the morning. But that's cool. But then, on the other times of the week, I'll get my daughter up. We'll wake up around 6 a.m. and we'll go to the playground, which is a block away. And she's been going to that playground all 7 of her years. And we have a ton of fun there. And we know the people who go there and people in our neighborhood. I live 2 blocks west of Times Square. And everyone says, oh, my God, how can you live so close to Times Square? Well, 2 blocks away from anything in Manhattan is an entirely different world. And that's the beauty of New York. You can literally go. You can go from Little Italy to Chinatown in 34 seconds. Right? A 34-second walk from the greatest Italian food to the greatest Asian food you're ever going to find. And so New York really keeps that spirit alive. And even during this time, my favorite pizza place has moved their tables outside. And they're a block away and they still deliver. There's something to be said for calling a restaurant instead of using one of the web apps and saying, hey, guys, can I get a large cheese with pepperoni? There is something wonderful about that. Central Park is still just as active as it's always been. I have a wonderful relationship with that park. I went to high school very close to that park. I went to high school performing arts, the quote-unquote fame school. And we would go there after performances, after rehearsals, and that was our place to chill. As I get older, I started going there as an adult. I run there multiple times a week. And in fact, if you Google me, I was the one who got arrested for exercising in the park before it opened. I had to do 10 miles. I started at 4 a.m. at 4:30 in the morning. Cop asked me what I was doing. I probably gave him a sarcastic answer, and that was my morning. So, it is a fascinating place the city is still very much alive. Everyone was saying this was a Ford, the Ford to New York drop dead headline that ran again in the 70s. It's not. We take pride in our battle scars here, and we take pride that we survive more than any other place in the world. We have good leadership on many levels, or state level leadership or local level leadership, and they help us get through, and they tell us what to do, and it's usually the right thing. We listen to the science, we listen to the data, and more importantly, we love each other. For the first 5 months of COVID, when we were all in quarantine, at 7 p.m. every night, there was a thank you yell where you opened your windows everywhere in the city and you just yelled thank you, and you beat on pots and pans, and you screamed. And every night, my daughter and I would do this, and you'd be surrounded by thousands of people screaming their heads off to let us know that we are in fact not dead yet, and we are going to come back stronger than ever. And we're starting to see that resilience kick in already. It's pretty great.
Going to get all emotional. What your shirt said before, verklempt. And that was a hell of a steak from Esposito's. Nice plug.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
All right, so we have John back. I'm so excited, and he's going to be taking us through a little bit of what happens in the Bronx. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you very much, Gabriella. Happy that I'm finally on. Excited to chat today about New York City. And yeah, we can start that presentation now. But first, let me tell you a little bit about who NYC & Company is and what we do. We're the official destination marketing organization for the 5 boroughs of NYC. And our mission is to maximize travel and tourism opportunities throughout the city, build economic prosperity, and spread the dynamic image of NYC around the world. And you'll see that up on the next slide. And that's who we are in a normal year. But this year has been anything but normal. And so we'll move on to the next slide and talk about our All In NYC campaign. Life has changed in really dramatic and unexpected ways this year, and these changes have had a particularly strong impact on New York City. But as New Yorkers, we've once again shown the world our trademark resilience that Peter was talking about. And so All In NYC is our brand revitalization campaign platform, and it's a rally cry. It's meant to capture the infinite experiences of New York City life and the immutable spirit of the people who live here. It leverages the authentic experiences of New Yorkers, and it is an invitation to all New Yorkers and New Yorkers at heart, some on this phone call, that we need to go all in as a city and begin our inevitable revival. And so All In NYC features editorial profiles of New Yorkers. It tells the stories of how businesses are reopening responsibly and helps to support local businesses, generating inspiration and writing a page of New York City's comeback story. And so we'll watch a quick video to show you what All In NYC is all about. So we'll start with a top-level look at our 5-borough city. This is the largest city in the United States with 8.6 million people, and one of the things we're most proud of is we're one of the most diverse cities in the world. It's really a true melting pot of people and culture. And just one example of this is the range of languages that are spoken in New York City on a daily basis. Depending on where you or your client could be, you could recognize Spanish, Chinese, Russian, French Creole, Yiddish, Bengali, Arabic, Urdu, Greek, Tagalog. I mean, so many languages that are spoken in this city. And then the boroughs. Maybe people aren't familiar with the term borough and what it is, but it's basically like a smaller city within our massive metropolis. And so Reginald and Trudy have already touched on a couple of these boroughs, but in alphabetical order, they are the Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, and Staten Island. And on the next slide, we'll show you the All In NYC Neighborhood Getaways campaign that we recently launched to help showcase all 5 of these boroughs. All In NYC Neighborhood Getaways is our new vibrancy campaign. It introduces our most diverse lineup of offers yet. And it's here to help you find out what's open now and how to connect with experiences that you've been missing or didn't know that you were missing before before. And so there's an offer for everyone, and everyone's following health and safety protocols to make sure that you can confidently explore once more. And for consumers, there is a give back program that we've partnered with MasterCard to come up with. So we really think it's a great time for anyone who can travel to New York City to come on and visit us. And so with that, I'll move on to the Bronx and tell you some of the things that'll be awaiting your guests there. So we'll kick it off. It's my home borough, and we have another one of our quick videos to show you a taste of the Bronx. To over 1.4 million residents. There are more than 50 neighborhoods in the Bronx. And as the northernmost borough, it is the birthplace of hip-hop music and home to the New York Yankees, two things we're very famous for. Blockbuster films such as The Bronx Tale and small screen hits like Bugs Bunny were filmed and recorded in the Bronx, and probably most famously, actress and singer Jennifer Lopez is from the Bronx, as is Kerry Washington and the late comedian George Carlin. There are just so many Bronx stories to tell, and the following video will introduce you to another story of the Bronx Beer Brothers over in Belmont.
My name is Anthony Ramirez II, and I'm co-owner at the Bronx Beer Hall.
My name is Paul Ramirez, and I'm also a co-owner at the Bronx Beer Hall. Bronx Beer Hall is located in the heart of the Bronx's Little Italy, inside of the Arthur Avenue retail market. I think this slowdown has made people look for a connection in different ways from different folks.
I think what we saw was a respect for what people do on a day-to-day basis that you normally take for granted. If anything, it strengthened the bonds within the community. You know, we come from a large Puerto Rican family, and my father set up his piano on his porch and did like pandemic concerts, playing hits and things like that. Plus, who doesn't want to see a 60-year-old guy play Post Malone on a piano? You know, unfortunately, we had to lay off our staff. Paul and I, basically, right back where we started with the beer hall, we became bartenders, /owners, /managers, /runners, all over again.
You know, beer halls are inherently communal spaces. With 6 feet between one another, I think we're still achieving that.
Yeah, it's great to see Anthony and Paul. I actually went and checked out the Bronx Beer Hall and had one of their summer slushies. It was good and very strong, very enjoyable. So we'll head from there to the South Bronx and the Grand Concourse. The South Bronx is home to Yankee Stadium, which holds the New York Yankees and also Major League Soccer's New York City Football Club. The stadium is currently not open to spectators or tour goers just yet, but there are a lot of great photo opportunities to take there before taking a stroll on the nearby Grand Concourse. The Grand Concourse is a major Bronx thoroughfare with extravagant Art Deco facades and historic buildings all along its length, with great places to eat, such as Court Deli, Billy's Sports Bar, and Molino Rojo. And as you're on the Grand Concourse, one great place to stop in, one of my favorite places, is the Bronx Museum of Arts. They're currently showing an excellent exhibition called Code Switch by New York City-based Sanford Biggers. He dives into some African-American culture via 50 quilt-based pieces. And then once you're done there, you can close out the day with a bite on a patio deck at Suya Gastrofusion or at Hungry Bird over in the Bronx. And so for those wanting to get a little bit more nature, on our next slide, we'll see that how we can take a trip to the park space along the Bronx River Greenway. And some of this is built along the grounds of a former concrete plant. It's about approximately 20 miles of this greenway already in place, and there are kayak and canoe launch sites, as well as extensive paths for walking, bicycling, and rollerblading. I have to say, about 2 months ago, I got a bike for my birthday, and I've been taking advantage of these greenways, and they are absolutely spectacular. The waterfront views from them are really great. And so we'll head back over on our next slide to where the Beer Brothers are over on Arthur Avenue. But first, we'll take a stop at the Bronx Zoo, which opened back in July, along with the Central Park Zoo and the Queens Zoo. They currently have outdoor exhibitions and showcasing their grounds. I believe they're actually doing a Halloween-themed exhibition at the moment. And then, so on the next slide, we'll see actually what Arthur Avenue looks like. And so Arthur Avenue, in case you don't know, is the real Little Italy in New York. There's some claim it's the one in Manhattan, but we Bronxites know where the food really is. So, after taking some time in at the zoo, you can enjoy a great Italian meal at Arthur Avenue. Piazza for some al fresco dining. And then after you've really carved up on all that Italian food, you can spend the night at the Opera House Hotel, which is a historic hotel in the South Bronx. It's about 20 minutes from Arthur Avenue, and it was formerly the Bronx Opera House. So if you stay there, you're able to sleep in the same place that hosted performances by Harry Houdini, the Marx Brothers, and John and Lionel Barrymore. Then the New York Botanical Garden, which is just about 5 minutes away from Arthur Avenue, it also reopened its grounds and had many of its outdoor collections on display. From what I've heard from them, they actually, once they reopened this summer, they actually didn't see a downturn at all in visitation. They had lots of people coming to see their very spacious and wonderful grounds. Another great garden that we have in the Bronx is Wave Hill, which opened back in July as well, and that offers 28 acres of gardens and woodlands. And right now they are requiring advanced reservations. And then we'll go to City Island, which is very close to my house, which is I'm very lucky to have. It's a seaside escape. It really feels like no other place in New York City. It's the Bronx's fishing village. It's full of yacht clubs and waterfront restaurants, and it's really known for being laid back, have some fresh seafood dining outdoors, and do a range of activities, including scuba diving. Not exactly something you think about in New York City, but come scuba up in the Bronx. And then, of course, when you're in City Island, you have to eat many popular seafood spots, chief among them City Island Lobster House, the original Crab Shanty, and Sammy's Fish Box. And then we'll finish up at Pelham Bay Park. Pelham Bay Park is New York City's largest park. It holds an 18-hole golf course, a mini golf course, tennis courts, and a wildlife refuge and sanctuary named after Thomas Pell. Pelham Bay Park is also home to the Bronx Riviera, Orchard Beach. It's the sole stretch of sand in the Bronx and features views of Long Island Sound and City Island. And while you're at the park, you can visit one of the borough's few riding stables. The Bronx Equestrian Center offers English and Western riding lessons, as well as group trail rides and pony rides for kids. So that's it from the Bronx.
All right, thanks for that. And thanks for being a sport and powering through the live TV challenges. And I loved what you presented there, because what I always find is that things I did when I was a child, I'm actually doing with my child. When I was growing up, my grandfather was an upholsterer on Jerome Avenue, and we used to always go to Arthur Avenue, especially on the holidays. And I saw you had that clip in the video, the Title Brothers, and we used to go there all the time. And I can remember that smell, those gorgeous cheeses and those meats and all of that deli stuff in there that we used to get, all the cold cuts for Arthur Avenue. And it just brought back a lot of memories. So thank you so much for that. And I'll ask Peter really quickly, because we're talking about hidden gems again, and we can't talk about New York without food. So I would love to ask him, as an insider, what are some of the little hidden places and some of the restaurants that a lot of people don't know about, that are a little off the beaten path? Like you said, mention Esposito's as a store. Give a few names of places that you really love to go that people might not find in a guidebook.
Well, before anything, I'd be remiss if I didn't add the fact that my mother grew up on Arthur Avenue, and because of her, I have never paid retail in my life. So there is a gift that she got from the Bronx, which was the fact that knowing how to spot a bargain, and I've been fortunate to have inherited that gift as well. I think in terms of restaurants, in terms of food, there is pretty much everything in the city. The only rule really about New York City food is that you really should never eat at a chain restaurant, right? There is so many opportunities to sample cuisines from, when I say around the world, I literally mean around the world. Every single conceivable cuisine is in New York City, and you can find it. You can't go to New York without eating pizza. Out of respect to Chicago, New York has the best pizza in the world, and that's not up for debate. It's simply fact. We have to accept it and move on. There are countless places for great pizza in the cities. John's Brick Oven has always been a favorite. Claudio's is my go-to. It's on 10th Avenue and 43rd Street, a little off the beaten path. You have Casa Bianca on 57th Street. There are just any pizza place in this city, even the 99-cent pizza places, right? There's a 99-cent pizza place next door to my building, and I actually have to make it a rule that I can't go, because if I go, that's all I'm going to have every day for months at a time. So it's very pizza is amazing. I love finding new cuisines I've never tried before. My daughter and I have a ritual every once in a while. We'll get up super early on a Saturday morning so we can be one of the first people online at any of the dim sum places in Chinatown. There are Feng Hua is probably one of the best dim sum places in New York City. You got to get there early, though. If you're not there by 7:30, 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, you're going to be waiting for about an hour to 2 hours. And from what I hear, they are planning on reopening as soon as they can. They have this giant, almost congregation hall like dining hall, and so they can do 6 feet away. Much better than sort of like a small hole in the wall can. It's also very encouraged to go to different boroughs and try the food there. We saw in Brooklyn, there's a huge Caribbean section. Wherever you go, I've taken trips in Manhattan just because I've heard about a slice of pizza that I really need to try in the Bronx or in Brooklyn. There are even places in Staten Island. How often would you take a boat ride to get good food? Well, that's how good the food is, that you actually get on a ferry, to go get that food. And the cool thing about that, and we'll talk about Staten Island later, is you can as you get off the ferry and walk down through St. George, you can sing "Papa Don't Preach" by Madonna, which was filmed literally a block from the Staten Island ferry.
Love it. All right, cool. So we've got 2 more boroughs to go through, and I'm going to turn it over to Trudy so she can give you a bit of a quick express tour on Queens. So I'll turn it over to you, and you can go right ahead.
Absolutely. Queens. Let's go all in and rediscover Queens with the video. Queens. Queens is home to JFK International Airport and LaGuardia Airport. It's also home to many exceptional landmarks like the Flushing Meadows Corona Park, Citi Field, which is the home of the New York Mets baseball team, the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center, which is the home to US Open tennis tournament. We also have the Silver Cup Studios and the Kaufman Astoria Studios in Queens. Queens is known as the city's most diverse borough, where visitors can experience an adventurous art scene and an authentic international cuisine from across the globe. Just as we were talking about food all over the city, Queens has all sorts of international cuisine, not to mention gorgeous parks and top-flight sporting events. Take the number 7 subway line that runs from Midtown Manhattan's Javits Center straight to Astoria and Flushing, neighborhoods that are well known for their immigrant communities and eclectic dining scene. Queens is home to over 2.2 million residents, where approximately 47% of the residents are foreign-born. This borough has it all, from the beaches of Rockaway to the food scene in Flushing. The borough's more than 70 unique neighborhoods have been called the most linguistically diverse places on this earth. Now let's hear from Loycent Gordon, the owner of one of the oldest establishments in Queens.
My name is Loycent Gordon. I'm the owner of Historic Nears Tavern, one of the oldest bars in New York City and probably one of the oldest ones in the country. Goodfellas was filmed right here in this bar. Queens is where I first landed when I came from the island of Jamaica. And when I saw that one of the most oldest historic bars was going to close and it's located in my new neighborhood, I said, I have to do something. I am fortunate to have the type of people in the Woodhaven community that exist today. These are people that believe in the values of being a community member, of taking action. We tested over 200 people for the antibodies. We tested 91 people for cardiovascular health issues right in front of Nears Tavern while we were shut down. This is what it means to be resilient, and this is what it means to be all in.
Nears Tavern is a true neighborhood gem, and Nears has shown the true New York spirit and the resilience of New Yorkers since 1835. Now, as we move to Forest Hills is located in the central part of Queens, and it's primarily known for its long-standing association with tennis. But it's also known as being the birthplace of the Ramones and where Simon and Garfunkel got together. Queens is where I went to school and also the childhood home of Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. So in honor of the US Open and Forest Hills neighborhood, you should definitely take a visit to the West Side Tennis Club, where the modern incarnation of the tournament, the tennis tournament, was inaugurated and held annually until 1978. You'll need to be a member of the club today, but not a member to view the Tudor-style clubhouse and the enormous main stadium. Forest Hills is known for gently rolling rows of Tudor homes and tulip trees that are secluded and relaxed. This area sometimes feels like a throwback, with old-school pizza parlors, sweet shops, connoisseries, and the train station that looks like it's unchanged from when Teddy Roosevelt spoke there 100 years ago. Let's move on to Long Island City. Long Island City was once the epicenter of manufacturing in New York City. Now it's the home to some of the most exciting art scenes. The neighborhood is dotted with turn-of-the-century industrial buildings that have been transformed into galleries, museums, and studios. It has a fast-growing list of must-see restaurants, shops, and performance venues. In Long Island City, you'll find the home of Silvercup Studios, one of the largest film and television production facilities in New York. The studio opened in 1983 in the former Silvercup Bakery, and productions include the current TV series Posse, and past hits like HBO's Sex and the City and The Sopranos. Also located in Long Island City is the Socrates Sculpture Park, an outdoor museum and public park where artists can create and exhibit sculptures and multimedia installations. Once an abandoned landfill, this area, the Socrates Sculpture Park, is now a great place to have a picnic and have views of the Manhattan skyline. Currently on display is Monuments Now, a timely series of pieces that highlight the underrepresented histories. The 4-acre site is the largest outdoor space in New York City dedicated to exhibiting sculpture. As we move to Flushing Meadows Corona Park, the largest park in Queens and the 4th largest park in New York City, this park has something for everyone. As you see here, the Unisphere sends a message that's visually represented. This Unisphere was erected in 1964 for the World's Fair. It stands as a reminder of the global interdependence and supports the World's Fair message of peace through understanding. In Flushing Meadow Park, you can find the Carousel, the Natorium, the National Tennis Center, the New York Hall of Science, the New York State Pavilion, Willets Point, the Queens Theater, Queens Botanical Gardens, Queens Museum, and the Queens Zoo. So much to do within Flushing Meadows Corona Park. Though the indoor spaces haven't reopened yet, when visiting the park, be sure to stop by the Queens Zoo. The zoo is home to more than 75 species native to America, like bison and tiny deer and the giant rabbits. Also, check out the Queens Drive-In, which is located behind the New York Hall of Science. They have movies on schedule that are Hollywood classics and international art house fare. A portion of every ticket for the Queens Drive-In will be donated to Elmore, a local nonprofit organization that provides support for the communities in Queens hardest hit by the pandemic. Finally, I want to talk about the TWA Hotel. The TWA Hotel in the JetBlue terminal at JFK International Airport is a destination unto itself. With 512 guest rooms and 50,000 square feet of event space, this hotel can hold events for up to 1,600 people. Period music, games, museum exhibits, retro decor. All this lets the visitor step back into the 1960s. With a structure that was first designed as the TWA Flight Center, this hotel is unique and special. This hotel is a great choice for any stay in New York City. Whether you're flying in, driving in, or taking the train, please be sure to add Queens to your itinerary.
Fabulous. And we are going to move right on to close it out with some Staten Island information. So I'm going to tip it over to Reginald to walk us out.
Thank you, Gabriella or Gabby. So now, most exciting borough, of course, because we have 5. It's Staten Island, and we're going to play a little clip. So for Staten Island, though, Staten Island is loaded with museums, architectural landmarks, beaches, and parklands, including the city's largest forest reserve. Now, Staten Island is also home to almost 500,000 people. And the good thing about it is the fact that major films have been shot in Staten Island. For example, Goodfellas, A Beautiful Mind, and if you're into these funny TV shows, Impractical Jokers was shot in Staten Island. Sorry about that. Staten Island is also home to a number of celebrities. For example, the late actors Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward, as well as my personal obsession, Marcia Clark, which was the O.J. Simpson prosecutor, Alyssa Milano, the actress, and of course the famous hip-hop band, the Wu-Tang Clan. Now, New York City is known for its skyscrapers and other cultural wonders. Staten Island has a number of these wonders. One in particular is the Alice Austin House. The house was home to the early American photographer Alice Austin. The next video takes you through the home and breathtaking views of Manhattan and Brooklyn.
My name is Puyan Taglianetti. I'm the Visitor Services and Education Coordinator here at Snug Harbor Cultural Center and Botanical Garden. Our program stopped and we closed our buildings, but our grounds and our outdoor gardens have been open this entire time. It's a place of complete peace and serenity. So many people tell us that they come to escape the daily stress. I get to come here on my off hours and enjoy it as a patron and not as an employee. Being here on the North Shore, a number of businesses that we regularly had frequented, a lot of these restaurants have parking lots that they've been able to convert to outdoor dining spaces. You have a renewed appreciation for those things that you might have taken for granted before. I mean, community is not just your geographical location, but it's those bonds that you have with your neighbor. To me, like, that's community.
Well, now that you saw a video on Snug Harbor, that's going to give you more interest and desire to look up Alice Austin's house by going to our website, nycgo.com/Alice Austin. Now I'm going to take you on a little bit of a tour of the neighborhoods in Staten Island. The first one is St. George. So take a free ride on the Staten Island Ferry from Lower Manhattan's Whitehall Terminal. And there you're going to be able to get spectacular views of the Statue of Liberty, as well as Lower Manhattan and downtown Brooklyn. Now, 3 minutes from the ferry terminal is going to be the National Lighthouse Museum, which opened this past August. And this museum specifically educates visitors about the history and technology of the nation's lighthouses. Now, you're going to want to catch up on shopping because everybody that comes to New York City loves to go shopping. And New York City's first and only outlet shopping mall called Empire Outlets is located just steps away from the ferry terminal. The shopping opportunities are indoor and outdoor. And once again, you get fantastic views of Lower Manhattan and downtown Brooklyn. Grab-and-go food and beverage options are at the outlets. They include Shake Shack, Starbucks, and my personal favorite, Haagen-Dazs. Now, if you head a few blocks south from the St. George area, the ferry terminal, you can go and have a nice cold beer at the flagship brewery, which serves up cold brews street side in the craft garden. And you'll need a nice little beer after going shopping half the day. The next neighborhood is Snug Harbor, which you saw a video that kind of touched upon a little bit about what happens in the Snug Harbor neighborhood. From the ferry, of course, you could take a long walk over to explore the grounds of Snug Harbor, a garden-filled retreat on the waterfront. And each summer, summer week, Wellness Wednesdays on the South Meadow feature farm fresh produce, meditation workshops, and music. Now, the Staten Island Museum on the grounds of Snug Harbor marks the centennial of the 19th Amendment with Women of the Nation Arise, Staten Islanders in the fight for women's right to vote, which is very poignant right now. The exhibition is running outdoors, showcasing the stories of local suffragists who worked to effect change on a national level. And now, after you've gone shopping and you've gone sightseeing and touring, now you can spend the afternoon or the evening in the borough's Hilton Garden Inn, which is open for weekends for reservations. And now back to you, Gabby.
All right, thanks. And I would love for you to take our audience through a few of the resources that you've compiled. I think we have a screen and we'll bring that up. And maybe just talk a little bit about, COVID updates and procedures and protocols. And that would be great for the audience.
Sure. So we have a number of procedures. So basically, by going to our website, we keep information up to date very regularly. So if you go to our website, nycgo.com/coronavirus, you get the latest updates on what is happening with the coronavirus. Also, the fact of testing in regards to there are certain states that are being restricted to coming into New York City because of the high rates of COVID. But we're making sure that everybody has that information necessary to make sure that you're not one of those states or a level 3 or level 4 country that has high rates of coronavirus. Also, as you can see here, tools and resources for the trade as well as for consumer. For the trade in particular, is information on virtual site tours. Now, virtual site tours, we know that being in person is not possible for everything at the moment, but event and leisure travel professionals can still explore New York City's unparalleled meeting options online. No matter group size, budget, or needs, the city's iconic hotels and world-class event space are ready to welcome visitors back and delegates back to New York City. And we're going to talk about what is specific for the tools for the trade. We could talk about the webinar series. We have a number of webinar series that we have on our website that you can have access to and be able to utilize and take a look at any time you'd like to. And we have continuous webinars going on. We actually have a monthly all-in webinar series taking place on the second Tuesday of every month for the travel trade, which is very, very useful and beneficial and informative. The next one coming up is on November 10th. Then for those of the travel trade who are going to come to New York City, and we have a trade pass. And the trade pass is for travel professionals, offering them exclusive deals and discounts at restaurants, cultural and sightseeing attractions, theater, and more. Now, for 2020, the trade pass has been suspended. However, you can sign up now to receive information for the 2021 trade pass once it's released. So thank you very much for taking the time to hear everything about New York City. I'm going to turn it back to Gabby so we can chat a little bit more.
Thank you so much. This was all wonderful information. I had a great time, and I'm going to actually just ask Peter a few things before we go, because he's been so gracious to share his insider information, but we haven't touched yet on Staten Island. And I know he mentioned he was going to share a few things that most people don't know, because I think it's a borough that just doesn't get enough love. So I would love to know what you would like to share and leave the audience with before we close it out about Staten Island.
So when I was 2 years old, my parents got rid of a 2-bedroom, 2-bath wraparound apartment on 95th and Columbus Avenue, 95th Street and Columbus Avenue that was rent controlled. Did I say it was rent controlled? Because it was rent controlled. And bought a house in Staten Island. And they wanted to give me a backyard. I had the greatest backyard in the world in Central Park, a block away, but they wanted to give me my own backyard for some reason. And what they gave me was a commute, because I wound up doing all my schooling in Manhattan. But a couple of things about Staten Island that people don't realize, it's actually, its tagline is the borough of parks. And you can't walk 5 feet without encountering a park or a little stream or a breezeway or something in Staten Island. It is really a beautiful, beautiful island. It has a lot of the cops that work in the city, a lot of the firemen that work in the city, teachers who work in the city. They tend to congregate on Staten Island, so it has a real sort of down home feel to it. It is very much. A lot of people say it's a respite from Manhattan, and it really is in a way. You get on that ferry and take a nice little boat ride back to Staten Island, and you're home. It was a nice place to grow up. it attracts a certain type of person, and that that sort of little hamlet outside of Manhattan. Snug Harbor is gorgeous. It's a lot of fun, and I think the my favorite joke is when explorers were coming up the river. When Columbus, people like that, and Magellan and Verrazano, and they discovered Staten Island. They looked at it out in the distance. They saw this little speck of land, and they looked at each other and said, "Staten Island," and that's how it got its name. Which obviously is not true, but I like to end it with that. So that's Staten Island for you.
Well, I love it. I did not know enough about Staten Island, but just like this whole presentation, I learned a lot. Well, thank you so much to you and to all of our friends from New York and Company. We all have enormous tasks ahead to help build New York back, but I have every confidence that you all learned a lot. Thanks for hanging with us. Technical glitches at all. And thank you so much. I'll be sending around a update fact sheet with everybody's contact information and a bunch of different resources that you can use to be able to sell New York better and promote it to your heart's content. So thank you so much for joining me and all of my guests. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.